Thank you for joining us. Today, we're excited to bring you a brand new show from the Onramp Media umbrella. Wake Up Call is a weekly show that will be streamed live on LinkedIn every Monday morning. To catch the premiere of each episode, follow Onramp's LinkedIn page and add Wake Up Call events to your calendar. After the live premiere on LinkedIn, we will distribute each episode across Onramp Media's podcast channels and YouTube page. Wake Up Call aims to educate financial professionals on the merits of the Bitcoin investment thesis, how this asset represents both a threat to legacy financial service businesses and an opportunity to differentiate oneself and retain and attract new clients. Hosted by Mark Connors, Onramp's head of global macro strategy, and Rich Kerr, Onramp's president of managed wealth, this show seeks to provide financial professionals the wake-up call they need, prompt them to have an open mind with respect to Bitcoin, rethink their prior assumptions, become more educated on the topic, and learn from others who are already farther down this path. Mark and Rich bring a combined 60-plus years of experience across traditional markets and financial services, and will share their unique perspectives in how their peers and colleagues can approach the realm of Bitcoin. Wake Up Call will feature guests from various backgrounds and industries who will also share their own journeys to Bitcoin and how others can get up to speed. Now, time for the show.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Wake Up Call. I'm Rich Kerr and joined with Mark Connors, and today's special guest is Matt Golliher, who's with Vista Investments out of Richmond, Indiana. So welcome, Matt. Glad to have you today.
Thanks, Rich. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So, Mark, lots of stuff going on over the course of the past week and this week as well. We had a second presidential candidate assassination attempt. These are becoming all too familiar, unfortunately. We had a CPI print. We've got all sorts of central bank decisioning coming this week. So we've got the U.S. FOMC on Wednesday, Thursday. Mm-hmm. We have Norway. We have Bank of England. We have Brazil, all meeting to discuss their interest rate policy and points of view on their economy. But I think at the very back end of the week, of course, one thing that everybody will be paying attention to is Japan. Bank of Japan will be meeting as well. So not for a loss of any topics to discuss here. I'm kind of curious, what are the things that you're keying on?
So thanks for that, Rich. And Matt, really looking forward to riffing with you, learn more about your business and what it took to bring in Bitcoin. Because all the data from last week, and we can go back over 1 year, 3 years, or whatever time frame, and all roads do point to rolling on a Bitcoin opportunity for clients. So on the data last week, I think the CPI goes to the most misunderstood and mischaracterized metric out there. It's almost as if people are looking at the temperature in Celsius and calling it Fahrenheit. Like it's just wrong value. CPI showed a 2.5% print, so that's fine. 2.5%. Most people's wages are indexed even a little higher than that. So they think wages are keeping up. But housing or shelter, which is a third of the index, was up 5.2%. And transportation costs up 7%. But if you owned your own car, your gas price was lower. Good for you, but not everyone owns their house. Not everyone owns their own car. And again, the people who don't own stuff get hurt. So that coupled with credit card defaults being the highest in over 12, 13 years, and sticky rates. So, Rich, you just mentioned it. Rates may be coming lower, but not for someone with a credit card. They're still going to be paying 22, 25%. It's only people who have a house that can refinance as rates go lower, as they've been able to do over the last year. So definitely a case of the haves and have-nots. So that was more on the economic front. On markets, we saw equities languish. They haven't, ever since China posted that lower growth number, equities have, for the last 2-3 months, stagnated. And the tech companies are languishing as Fidelity's head of macro put out, Trimmer, He loves the charts. He's good at them. He shows the other 493 names are finally catching up to the Magnificent Seven. That's good news for them, but your portfolio hasn't moved. So it's just a sort of this cycling, Rich. And what's happening as all this is ruminating and rates may go down and equities are cycling? Gold punches to an all-time high. 26.14, up 26% on the year. And it's Jackson Millick, who runs our institutional side, said here at Onramp, it's the first time we've seen this deep into a year where both Bitcoin and gold are leaders in the asset class clubhouse. Bitcoin up some 43% on the year. So we'll leave it with the fact that responses to stagnating growth are going to be more money printing. Doesn't matter about the price. It's all about adding more money and deficit spending. So that's, I think, where we'll kick off to you guys, or from my perch as the head of global macro. That's the lever that every country is going to pull, Rich, at these meetings. Bank of Japan later this week, they already pulled it. They bought billions of JGBs in response to August's mess where they gave the wrong messaging. So that's where we are. And it's one reason why I'm so happy that you got Matt here. And before you pivot to him, maybe talk about the letter he wrote that posted, because that really is the wake-up call. Matt, your letter posted. So,
yeah, maybe I'll tee it up for our guests who haven't had a chance to read this. Matt, we are absolutely delighted to have you on this show. I think largely because Vista has, in my mind, been a pioneer in many respects around the way that they've embraced Bitcoin. You guys moved towards Bitcoin with your clients. I think several years ago, if I'm not mistaken, and have really started figuring out how to integrate this unique digital asset into your portfolios and your planning for your clients. And kudos to you, one, for having the vision, and then two, for not just taking your differentiation and saying, we're just going to keep it quiet, and win, but you're actually, you actually produce this, I don't know what I want to call it. It's a letter, an opinion letter, to the financial advisory community and other registered investment advisors like Vista. And it's titled Financial Advisors, It's Time to Study Bitcoin. So it's a beautiful open letter that you penned, I think, in the month of June of this year, if I'm not mistaken, towards the end of June, basically describing your path to Bitcoin as a firm and as an individual as well. And more importantly, there's some really elegant things that you did with this open letter. I think you gave your story and your clients' stories a little bit of color and integrated your learning path, right? Touching on, people like Saifedean Ammous and the Bitcoin Standard and Lynn Alden and Broken Money and I think Pritzker's book as well. And I think in many respects you've given your template to how to unlock Bitcoin and start thinking about what it means for your clients and more importantly for your firm and how to differentiate in the marketplace. And here you sit in 2024, and I speak to a lot of registered investment advisors and financial advisors that are in wirehouses, and they're all trying to figure things out. You at Vista, you guys have done that. You've taken a really interesting pathway to integrating Bitcoin into your wealth management offering. And I'd love to just pull that thread a little bit. How did you get there? Maybe help the audience understand, how did you guys come to this point? And then more importantly, what were some of the things that you had to go through as a firm in order to fully get there? Because change doesn't come easy. There are difficult decisions and steps that have to happen along the way. And so I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me again. And I go through it some in that open letter where I kind of tell the story. But before I came here to Vista, I was a financial advisor through a bank channel at a much larger firm. And through sheer luck, ended up making a job change in March of 2020. My first day at Vista was actually March 23rd, I believe, which was the day Indiana shut down for the pandemic.
Okay.
And looking back, that was all relatively lucky because I describe in the letter that in 2017, I told clients that Bitcoin was digital beanie babies, essentially. Purely speculative, not a suitable long term investment or store of value. And I had tried to look into it back then because that's when clients first started asking me about it. Bitcoin had a massive price run up that year, so it was in the mainstream financial news. But with all the other stuff going on in crypto and, the blockchain buzzword had taken off and all these ICOs were coming out, I couldn't see through all that to see the signal that was Bitcoin. And I kind of just conceptualized it all as the same thing. And that's what I told clients. Then the price went down later in the following year. I interpreted that as me being correct, and I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to Bitcoin for the next couple of years. But then fast forward, I left the bank, I joined Vista. Pandemic happened, the world shut down, and something made me notice that Bitcoin wasn't dead yet. And I just got this feeling that if I'm going to continue dismissing this, I need to at least read a book about it. And fortunately for me, by that time, a lot of good Bitcoin books had been written about it. So the first one I ordered was The Bitcoin Standard by Saifedean Ammous. And before I was even done reading that, I remember I read it in a single sitting on a Saturday. But I was about halfway through and I started sweating because I realized I was wrong. And this thing is, there's something here. So I fell down the proverbial Bitcoin rabbit hole, and it became a bit of an obsession over the next couple of years. I read something like 40 Bitcoin books or books on related topics to Bitcoin. And I'm very grateful to the team here because when I started talking with our managing partner, Brett Guiley, about this Bitcoin thing, he was very open and receptive to it. And we all, number one, came to the conclusion that if this is what it appears to be, it will be the most important financial innovation that we will see in our careers. And it is our fiduciary duty to educate clients about it and to be able to offer it to them in a variety of ways. So we quickly hit a couple of brick walls in trying to do that. And the last 3 years has included a lot of changes to our firm. We call it solving the Bitcoin Rubik's Cube to be able to offer it in a comprehensive wealth management offering. But among other things, we had to separate from the RIA we were a part of and start our own here in Richmond, Indiana. We had to hire external compliance. We had to find E&O insurance that covers Bitcoin explicitly, and we had to change broker-dealers because our previous one would not even allow us to talk about Bitcoin. So, among all those different changes, we've now finally been able to, just a few months ago, offer a division of Vista Investment Partners called Orange Horizon Wealth, and the purpose of that is to offer Bitcoin-focused wealth management and advisory solutions. So we haven't even fully publicly launched that yet. The website's still getting finished up and everything, but after about 3 years, we're able to offer Bitcoin, educate about Bitcoin, and do the things in Bitcoin that we want to as wealth managers.
Yeah, I mean, what you're describing is a lot of work, right? A lot of thoughtfulness, really kind of coalescing around what is the strategy and then going through and tactically rebuilding the infrastructure to be able to support this offering and delivery mechanism for clients. And, here's what I'm struck by. Right. And those who follow the show quite a bit understand that I pay attention to broader patterns and themes. And I always look at the various actors that are coming into the Bitcoin space, right? Nation states. El Salvador has laid out a template, right? In fact, there was big El Salvador news breaking over the weekend, where I believe that they are not going to, tap into the IMF to extend their debt, their country's debt in order to fund their the operations of government. And so I thought, wow, okay, they're just continuing to show the template for the world to be able to embrace a Bitcoin standard. The same could be said about MicroStrategy and what they're doing on the corporate level and with Treasury reserve assets and things on that nature. For a company, they set the template and they said, hey, here's how to do it, right? And all of a sudden you see Semler come in, and then you start seeing other companies around the globe start slowly matriculating in. And right now we're seeing a ton of small businesses that are being drawn to integrate Bitcoin into the corporate treasury asset space. And now here you've got people like Vista, right, which are joining our show. It's an RIA that has adopted Bitcoin, has thought deeply about what the asset is, about the need in the marketplace to bring this forward, right? I always say the RIA is the great disruptor in traditional finance. So this is, the disruptor embracing the next disruptor versus running from it or ignoring it. You're actually leaning into it, and you're sharing with the audience, that to get to the place that Vista has, it hasn't been an easy road. It's taken a lot of education, a lot of coalescing around what this is and what you wish to bring forward, and developing a cohesive strategy. And then it becomes an exercise of saying, okay, now we have our ideas and we know what our philosophy is, but how do we bring it to life? And that starts connecting to the compliance side and the E&O side and, integration into portfolio management side of the equation to bring it to life for clients and show them the value that you're adding. I love the story. So Vista is in many respects, the embracer of this technology and laying out a template to say, hey, others can follow this. So kudos to you all.
At Onramp, we believe that Bitcoin is the most important asset of the 21st century. The hard part is securing it right. There are shortcomings with keeping your coins on an exchange, but also with setting up your own self-custody arrangement. Onramp solves for these concerns. Our multi-institution custody solution maximizes security and minimizes counterparty risk, ensuring that your Bitcoin remains securely in your possession, and provides built-in inheritance planning to ensure your family is protected as well. Onramp provides peace of mind for your Bitcoin journey, whether for your whole stack or for part of it as a complement to your existing self-custody setup. For more information, check us out at onrampbitcoin.com.
Thank you. And that, I would say, is a big goal of ours, in being the first, or, one of the first to do this like we have, and embracing Bitcoin. Now that we've done it, we want to help other advisors follow in our footsteps, because I've talked to dozens of financial advisors over the last several years who are in the same position we were in 3 years ago, where they see Bitcoin, the light bulb went off, but they can't do anything about it because their firm won't allow them to, or their business partners, or whatever the case is. They're just not able to embrace Bitcoin and help their clients with it the way that they would like to. So through our journey, I mentioned when you see it first, we decided we can't not offer this to clients. We can't not educate clients about this. But as we continue down this path, in addition to being the most important financial innovation we believe we'll see in our career, we started to get a very firm conviction that embracing Bitcoin is also the best business opportunity that we would see in our career.
Tell us more about that.
Well, there's, I would say, two main opportunities.
We just picked up 35 more listeners when we talked about that one, guys, on the business side. Just want to let you know. So keep going.
Well, let's dig into it then. The first one is our, for Vista investment partners, for our existing clients, we're still Vista. And we're not trying to drag those clients kicking and screaming into Bitcoin, but we are educating them about it now and helping them get off zero when they're ready. But our main strategy for growth moving forward is helping Bitcoiners who also own traditional financial assets. And we have found that there is a very motivated niche of wealth management clientele for whom that is the number one thing they're looking for, is a financial advisor with a deep understanding of Bitcoin. And oftentimes they don't even need our help with the Bitcoin piece of it. They're already clients of, Swan or Unchained or another Bitcoin company. They don't need our help necessarily with that, but it's very important to them that the person managing and advising on their non-Bitcoin assets sees the world the same way that they do, and has an understanding of Bitcoin the same way that they do. So I would say that's the first opportunity, where that may describe probably less than 1% of, all potential RIA clients, but that's enough to keep us busy for a couple of decades. So that's the first one. The second one is, now that we've done it, now that we've solved the Bitcoin Rubik's Cube and gone through, all that pain and friction and all the changes, we believe we've created one of, if not the most attractive RIA in the country for other financial advisors to plug their businesses into and empower themselves to grow their practices with Bitcoin the way that we plan to. So that's the other opportunity is...
which I think is really important. So for listeners who are joining in, in the industry, we often call it the join initiative. There are, advisors that come out of the wirehouses every single day, and launch their own business. And some people are prepared to do that. But it takes enormous thinking and planning and architecting, and just a ton of sweat, equity, and fear of losing clients to be able to launch an independent registered investment advisor. It's a daunting task, and not everybody wants to run payroll, and not everyone wants to manage people and staff, and not everybody wants to pick tech stacks and all of those types of things. And so what Matt and Brett over at Vista are talking about, they're architecting a way for advisors to easily plug into their firm, with traditional assets, but also have exposure to Bitcoin in a way that is above and beyond simply just allocating to an ETF. You're actually giving spot exposure, and securing the ownership assurances of the Bitcoin for your clients, and providing ongoing education to support their learning and understanding of why it's in the portfolio and how it connects to their overall wealth management picture. And so, plugging in advisors is a very, very common thing in the industry. Oftentimes, a lot of wirehouse folks that I'm talking with they feel that they're stuck, Matt. They feel like, okay, well, my hands are tied. I have a point of view around Bitcoin. There's not much I can do until, our firm approves the ability for me to solicit on this asset. Or maybe they've approved the solicitation, but with conditions, and that doesn't feel right to them. And so right now it's a pivot point for a lot of these firms that I'm speaking with, or not firms, excuse me, individual advisors that are stuck inside of traditional financial services firms that can't do what they wish to do. In fact, I'm talking to RIAs that are stuck inside of an RIA that can't do what they want to do outside their RIA. And so it really becomes quite an interesting dilemma. And maybe this is one of the first ways that Bitcoin incentivizes the broader RIA community to come to it, which is, I don't want to lose all of my advisors who have developed a thesis around it, and our investment committee won't allow us to do something. That being said, you guys are starting to turn that key and be able to say, okay, if you like our the people that live inside of our firm and our culture and our point of view and the way that we serve clients, and if you have like investment philosophy and want to be liberated in terms of the way that you work with Bitcoin and your clients, you don't have to start your own business. You can potentially come in, improve your economic situation, improve your wealth management offering and capabilities, and integrate Bitcoin inside of our firm. So, kind of tucking in and not going through all of the brain damage that may come with launching an independent offer.
Yeah, I've a framework that I use when, tough business decisions or when you find yourself in conditions that you find intolerable. A framework that I used to think through it is you either forget it, you fix it, or you fire it. And for the Bitcoin question, for advisors who are stuck in a firm that does not enable them to do what they want with Bitcoin, option one would be to, well, forget about it. Can't do anything. That's too bad. I'll just keep doing what I was doing. But like I said before, if you see Bitcoin the way I do and you believe that it is what I believe it is, as a financial advisor, you can't really just forget about it and just sit back and watch it do what it's going to do over the next decade or two, and let that just pass you by. So I really don't know any advisors who have chosen option one, forget it. Option two, fix it. You talk to your firm leadership, you try to orange pill everyone, and you try to, in some of these cases, steer these massive firms away from what they've been doing that's been so successful and toward this new scary thing that they don't really understand the risk-reward opportunity of. I know quite a few advisors who are trying to do that, but they understand that even if they're successful, it's going to take 5 to 10 years to be able to get to the point where they're able to do what they want. And so, unfortunately, a lot of advisors are in the third option. If you can't forget about it or fix it, you fire it and you make a change. And for advisors who are trying to think through how to do that, I have conversations all the time with those advisors. Some of them will never join us. Some of them will never partner with us in any official capacity, but I feel their pain, and I am always happy to talk with those advisors as they're thinking through this and trying to figure out how to get this done.
Yeah, so it's one of the reasons why I love the registered investment advisor community as a whole. Are you competitors to one another? Sure. You're all going for the same type of client. You're all trying to position your value proposition to stand uniquely in the space. But at the end of the day, you also have a very altruistic nature in the sense that you say, hey, look, I'm willing to share. I want you to be successful because if the RIA industry is thriving, all boats lift, and with that rising tide. And so I find that it's probably one of the most collegial groups I've ever worked with in terms of sharing of best practices and ideas that will allow the other to be successful. And that in my mind is a show of strength, of great strength, that you believe in your competencies, you believe that that you can continue to win even though you're enlightening others. And that's kind of the gist of that open letter that you wrote to the advisor community in many respects. It's saying, hey, look, we can all win here. But most importantly, it's those clients that we serve, that win. And, I say this often inside of Onramp. I keep saying that it's the RIA is going to unlock a ridiculous level of individual investors to come to Bitcoin. And the question just comes down to, the readiness of every single RIA. There's a common statement inside of the Bitcoin world that we all get Bitcoin at the price that we deserve. And I like to tell advisors, what price do your clients deserve, right? What price do your clients deserve? And it matters to develop a thesis around this, because the last thing that you want is for another 15-year track record to post that's similar to the 15-year track record that we've just seen, juxtaposed against a debasing currency, that has 111 years track record of pure debasement. And so
Rich,
when you think about those things, it's just striking. Mark, I'm sorry.
totally, man. It's like, so Rich, we're working together more when we're starting to just have this Jedi mind connection, because I was just teeing up a chart from Matt's report, and I was going to show it to you. Just the whole picture says 1,000. Let's.
Matt's like, which chart's he going with?
I think I know.
So here we go. So I'm usually a bar chart guy where Bitcoin's 60% return over the last 10 years, and it's multiples, 3 times more than the equity market, more than bonds. Bonds are and then 50% in the last 5 years. But this gives a perspective. So everyone can say, yeah, I remember Bitcoin in 2017. I didn't buy it. I didn't buy it in 19. I bought it in 20. But how long do you have to go, as Rich said? Because everything I started the conversation with when Rich mentioned about the calendar of events, every financial nail is going to be hit with the debasement or printing hammer. That's what's going to happen. And Bitcoin fills that void. It's an odd concept. We can talk about it, but I'll just throw out, this is why you'd want to go in. And I don't know, Maddie or Rich, if you've heard, the FUD or fear, uncertainty and doubt that people have thrown at Bitcoin like it's a bubble, and then, we all know that the tulip bubble was 3.5 years? The dot-com bubble was 4 or max 5 years, however you want to measure it. So unless I'm adding up wrong, this is on 15 years, really, if you want to go back to 2011. 10, 15 years of returns. So I'll push it back to you, Matt, since this is your chart, and I'm going to stop presenting. That was our first venture into screen sharing here on our wake up call. We're very proud of it. But as we look to close, Rich, I don't know if there's anything that you and Matt want to talk about.
I might just say, tee up a close and then give Matt final words here. Matt, when you were kind enough to agree to join us, I couldn't have been more excited, because I think you're a firm that has, in the United States, that has stepped through this process. It can be done. Does it have some challenges? Yes. Are there thought leaders in the space? Yes. There are people like us here at Onramp that are willing to talk to you and help you kind of think through how to enter the space. There are things that you can do that separate and differentiate yourself in the marketplace, in terms of growth strategies. Matt just gave you a beautiful growth strategy, not only just being able to solve client dilemmas, and I think that that's really what it's borne out with Vista, is they want to solve client problems, and they're good at it. But now they're actually saying we can solve problems for other advisors as well, and everybody can win. The advisor can win, Vista can win, the clients of those advisors can win because of Vista, and so those are just a few, right? I could sit down and rattle off 4, 5, 6 different ways that people could grow with Bitcoin as an advisory firm and succeed by the disruptor embracing the new disruptor. And to Matt's earlier, statement, you can forget it, right? Fix it or fire it. And I like that a lot, and I think that Vista has really taken a step forward for the industry, and you're actually sharing pathways to be successful and embrace a new disruptor and remain a disruptor yourself. And so thank you so much for joining us today. Any closing thoughts for our audience, Matt?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'll just say if anyone hasn't read the open letter, again, it's called Financial Advisors. It's Time to Study Bitcoin. It was published on Swan Bitcoin's blog. It has my email address, my contact information in that letter. I'm always happy to chat with any advisor or any financial professional who's struggling to do something similar to what we've done. So if there is anyone for whom we can be helpful, please feel free to reach out. Happy to talk.
Yeah, that's awesome. We thank everybody for joining us today. Next week, we will have another special guest. And if you pay attention to your LinkedIn, you'll get a chance to see that. But Matt, thank you so much for joining us. And
Thanks,
everybody have a wonderful week.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the show. If you found the information valuable, please share the episode with a friend or leave a rating on your favorite podcast app. All the links we discussed in today's show will be in the show notes inside your podcast app. Before we finish, a quick reminder that Onramp Media is for informational and entertainment purposes only, and nothing should be construed as investment or legal advice. Regardless of where you are on your Bitcoin journey, we'd love to hear from you. Visit onrampbitcoin.com/contact to schedule a consultation with one of our private client advisors.